And Mpianzi is one of 16 pupils that have died since the beginning of this school year alone. This morning, 2 pupils died in a taxi crash. Well, Kirstie Haslam from DSC Attorneys joining us now from Cape Town to discuss the responsibilities of school and teachers that have in keeping our children safe. Let's just find out from her what it is they found according to the research they've done. Thanks very much for your time, Kirstie. And your report, all this research that you undertook, were you looking at cause or accountability?
Well, really, it's a commentary on the accountability of schools and other relevant institutions to make sure that they provide a safe environment for our children to be educated.
Okay, so what was it that you found? Because at the time of these tragedies, especially the death of Enoch Mpianzi, the issue of indemnity came up over and over again. And of course, you know, when it comes to the legalities around that, it seemed that it was not just a case of black and white, that there was a lot in between that needed to be considered, a lot of scenarios, what type of events. So in your research, what is it that you found about who can be held accountable, when and for what?
Well, what is concerning in particular about if we focus on these last 16 deaths, which is a horrific number when you think about the period of time we're talking about. These 16 deaths, there are about 3 of those that we don't have a lot of information about. But if you look at the balance of the instances, in the majority of those cases, the overwhelming majority of cases, I would suggest, those deaths were utterly avoidable. And to me, it points to almost a criminal culpability on the part of some of those schools or institutions for allowing those circumstances to arise, which resulted in those tragic losses.
So if parents or guardians or caregivers were to hold somebody responsible, Kirstie, in the event of a tragedy or an injury during a school event, during school hours, something that the school has undertaken with these children, what would be their starting point? What would be their right?
Well, I would suggest that they seek legal representation as soon as possible, because it's a vast undertaking to start on by yourself and without help. It's important to gather evidence as quickly as possible, interview witnesses and make sure that all necessary steps are taken to preserve evidence in view of a future civil action.
And what would it take to actually prove negligence on the part of the school or teachers?
Well, what it revolves around is that a school has a duty of care at common law to provide a safe environment for our children. And that means that they must take reasonable measures to ensure a reasonably safe environment and take reasonable precautions to ensure that. So the acid test is reasonable. Not beyond a reasonable doubt, as in the criminal context, but on a balance of probabilities. So is it more likely than not that there was negligence on the part of the school authority?
So, Kirstie, you have acted for a number of children who have either been injured on school premises or during school outings. How easy or how difficult is it to actually get to the bottom of cases like these? And what are the different challenges?
Well, evidence preservation and finding witnesses is certainly the biggest challenge. And the earliest, as I say, that you begin those investigations, the better. You adverted earlier to the prospect of reliance on indemnities, which is, of course, a complete minefield when it comes to matters of these nature. So one needs to establish early on whether any such documents or contracts are in place, and to really get to the bottom of whether there could be a successful reliance on such a defence. Which is not all that easy for a school, as we've seen in some of these instances.
Kirstie, I've also heard, a lot of schools rethinking since these tragedies of where they're going to undertake. Are they actually going to take pupils out? Are there going to be school outings as well? What is within the rights of the parent? What details can they ask for before they even think of signing such a form? What information are they entitled to, and that they should know that they can ask for?
Well, I would definitely recommend that the first inquiry should be about what safety precautions are in place to look after the children. Remember, when you are surrendering your child to the custody of a school, they have to act in loco parentis. So they have to assume the role of caregiver and to make sure that that child does not come to harm. So safety precautions you should certainly be asking about. And if you are not satisfied that there are sufficient measures in place, such as adequate supervision and so forth, you should be saying, thank you, my child will not be attending.
All right, thanks very much for that. Just a little bit of legal advice there. That's all we have time for. But yes, as a parent, if you are worried, you are within your rights to ask for whatever it is. It has been quite a time, I think, for parents of two minds whether to send their children on these trips or not.